Yo, Cardi B just walked back into Stefon Diggs' arms, and the receipts are wild. Dudes hanging out, leaving parties together, her hugging his mama like they never broke up, the whole nine. Meanwhile, Offset, bro is in hiding, dodging everybody he owes money to while his ex is smiling front row with another man family. And Stefon Diggs really thought he was slick. He picked the worst possible week to expose his hand. Before we get into it, like, subscribe, don't miss it. Nah. Belcalis Almonzo, Cardi B to y'all, reunited in public with Stefon Marshall and Diggs at a Little Miss Drama Tour after party, then pulled his entire family into the front row during the DC and Atlanta stops. This was captured on video in April, posted all over Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for the whole culture to dissect. Stefon really thought nobody would clock the timing here. Now let's look at the receipts that show exactly why this ain't love. It's leverage. Okay, y'all, let me pull up the quote bank, because this is where it gets loud. First receipt. On his Instagram in October, Stefon Diggs posted a caption that said he's moving away from what feels IDK performative and back toward real self-expression. When I read that, bro, I had to do a triple take. Performative? Performative from WHO. Sir, you catch a football for a living and wear Rick Owens a dinner. What exactly have you been performing that you're now tired of? That's the dumbest flex I've heard all year. Bro really sat at his phone and typed performative like his France fanning. Second receipt. Days after that post, Diggs officially unveiled Cyviz Paysem, his luxury furniture and lifestyle line, debuted at Miami Art Basel with a broader release set for 2026. In his own announcement, he said, "For this launch, I wanted to create functional art pieces, objects, and furniture that contribute to a sense of peace." Functional art pieces. This man is selling you a $14,000 chair while his other hand is holding Cardi BS. When I read this, I was like, nah, the timing is too clean. You wiped your IG, posted that performative caption, then showed up with Cardi's family, then dropped the furniture line? Stefon, babe, we can read. Third receipt. Mama Diggs, yes, Stephanie Diggs herself, posted on Instagram congratulating Cardi publicly on her tour, writing, "Cardi takes Atlanta with such a vibe, I'm so proud." And on Twitter, her bestie Nia B went even harder, writing, "Cardi B, thank you for taking the time to wish me a happy birthday while you're on the Little Miss Drama Tour. You are a phenomenal woman and I'm so honored to have you as a friend. Keep shining, Queen." Yo, when I saw this, I had to sit down. Because you know who never once posted anything like that? Offset's mama. Ever. In like 7 years. Not one phenomenal woman tweet. Not one my daughter-in-law caption. Nothing. Fourth receipt. Offset himself, on his own IG Live last year, told fans he spent $12 million on Cardi during the marriage after fans clowned him saying Cardi was buying her own bags. Bro said what? That's the dumbest flex I've ever heard a man make about the mother of his kids. You're really itemizing gifts on live like it's an Amazon return receipt? That's where Offset lost the plot. Brew. Any man counting pennies on his wife in public is telling on himself. Fifth receipt. On December 26, 2025, the IRS filed official documents confirming Offset finally paid off a $1.5 million federal tax lien that had been hanging over his head, $1.50 million in back taxes. Yo, this man was talking $12 million spent on his wife while the federal government was in his DMs like, so, the taxes. Nah, you can't scream about what you spent on your ex when the IRS literally had to file paperwork to unblock your divorce. That's not a flex, that's a cry for help. Now that we got the quotes, let's connect the dots. Here's where it gets shady, yo, because the timeline is loud. That performative post dropped just weeks before the furniture line announcement. That's not personal growth, that's a marketing runway. Any PR publicist alive knows you see the new era narrative before the product drop. So when Stefon said he's leaving performance behind, yeah, right after he was literally performing at Paris Fashion Week and PDF.Channel's Milan runway show in September. Bro, you walked a runway 2 months ago. Sit down. That family turnout at the DC show happened April 8th, exactly during the final stretch of Cardi's sold-out tour. Now let me tell you what nobody is connecting. The Little Miss Drama Tour started back in February, with people predicting it would flop. Stefon was nowhere. Radio silence. But the minute it became a cultural phenomenon, Suddenly his mama is in the front row and Mama Diggs' bestie is tweeting love letters. Where was this energy when the tour was getting dragged in the pre-sales? Crickets. That's the move of someone who doesn't have real advisors. Or worse, someone who's got too good of advisors. Remember the July wipe? Cardi wiped every photo of Stefon from her IG in July 2025, and TMZ covered it as a breakup sign. Then Stefon wiped his entire Instagram later that fall. Most people thought it was a final breakup. Nah, that's literally marketing 101 when you're prepping a brand launch. You scrub the old vibe so the new rollout feels clean. So Stefon did this 3 months before his furniture line? That's not heartbreak, brew. That's a content calendar. Now here's a behind-the-scenes part that has me crazy. The Diggs family is bear-hugging Cardi in public while Offset's family historically ice her out. Receipts on that. Cardi publicly dragged Offset's mom back in the day for disrespecting her kids, and even referred to Offset as her baby daddy, not her husband, during the fight. Offset's family never gave Cardi the daughter-in-law status despite years of marriage and multiple kids. So now you got Stefon's family serving the exact opposite energy, strategically. Any smart person would have waited to let that new family energy marinate naturally. But Stefon? He weaponized it into a launch campaign. That's calculating. And let's talk about Offset's financial situation while we're here, because this matters. Multiple reports surfaced in 2025 that Offset was dealing with serious financial problems, millions owed in taxes, gambling issues, and divorce fallout. He's dodging folks he owes, while his ex is getting family portraits with a man who plays 9 games a year and sells Ottomans. The contrast is crushing. That's when you know Offset made every mistake a man can make. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about this yet. Zoom in on that ONE word in Stefon's caption. Performative. That's not a word a football player uses on IG by accident. That word is industry speak. That's branding language. That's the exact vocabulary a PR consultant drops into a rebrand deck. Pick any athlete to fashion pivot in the last 5 years. They all reach for that word when they want the industry press to take them seriously. So Stefon didn't write that caption from the heart. That caption came from a meeting. And Stefon really didn't catch that. We catch that? That's embarrassing. Now zoom into the brand name itself. Vis Pacem. Latin for if you want peace, short for the phrase vis pacem, parabellum, which means if you want peace, prepare for war. Bro literally named his furniture line Prepare for War. A man publicly dating one of the biggest female rappers on earth, whose ex is going through a financial crash out, named his furniture brand Prepare for War. Nah, that's a subliminal. That's a message. That's the type of wordplay a detective catches and Offset misses. If Offset had half a brain, he'd have read that name and understood it was aimed at him. Zoom into the positioning of that DC after-party video. Cardi and Stefon walking out together. Camera is clearly positioned. Exit strategically timed. Anybody who's ever been to an arena after-party knows you don't accidentally walk out the front with the cameras up unless you want the shot. That exit was stage cleaner than a music video. And Stefon thought that clip was a love moment. Nah. Brew, that was a press release with legs. Now zoom into the gesture Mama Diggs gave Cardi at the Houston stop. The romantic hug. The warm embrace. That wasn't a hey girl hug. That was a welcome home hug. That's the kind of hug you choreograph. And the cultural code of that hug hits Cardi directly in her biggest emotional blind spot, being rejected by Offset's family. That hug wasn't for Cardi's heart. That hug was for the algorithm. That's the problem with Stefon. He's playing chess with emotional warfare pieces, and he doesn't even respect us enough to hide the board. And one more forensic note. Look at how Stefon has shown up across Cardi's career. Nothing during album rollout. Nothing during the Grammy run. Nothing during the Little Miss Drama Tour's risky opening. And then a red carpet family ambush exactly when his launch calendar needed press. That's a behavioral pattern. Bro only shows up when the spotlight is pointed somewhere he can stand. If Stefon was built different, he'd have been front row in February, not April. That's a tell. Now let's see how the media covered this. All right, media check. Different outlets spun this completely differently, and that's where the narrative war is happening. News framed it as a heartfelt reunion after breakup rumors, basically painting Stefon as a devoted boyfriend who flew in to support his girl. That's the puppy love interpretation. But remember the timeline we just connected? The Miami Art Basel debut was literally weeks away. So its reunion angle completely ignores the launch calendar. Nah, Yahoo Entertainment went a different direction, framing it as Stefon still showing love to his ex even if the romance didn't work out. So Yahoo is telling us it's platonic support. That's cute. But that framing conveniently sidesteps Mama Diggs' public birthday tour tweets and the mom's bestie gushing over Cardi on Twitter. Friends don't send their mothers and their mothers' besties to wage a public love campaign on the woman who didn't work out. That Yahoo framing doesn't hold up. Then you got the sporting news and home design outlets like Homes and Gardens running the furniture line as a surprising creative career move celebrating Stefon's taste. Notice how none of the design publications are connecting the launch timing to the Cardi reunion? That's because the fashion or design world needs him to look authentic for the brand to sell. So they are scrubbing the messiness out of the story. Convenient. Now some of you all in the comment are gonna say, nah, you're reaching. Stefon actually loves Cardi. You're a hater. Some Stefon fans are reaching trying to defend this. But those are the same people who don't remember the Paris Fashion Week runway, the Milan runway, the UGG partnership, the PDF channel debut, and the Cyvis Paysom launch all happening within the same 12-month window as him getting serious with Cardi. The media trying to spin this as pure romance, but the receipts don't lie. Every time Cardi brings shine, Stefon brings product. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. But here's what nobody is saying. Mainstream media is selling your two lanes. Either Cardi's back in love or Cardi's being used. Both of those are surface level. Here's the real story they won't tell you. This isn't about Cardi being stupid. Cardi is not stupid. Let me say it louder for the back row. Cardi is not stupid. She's one of the most business-savvy women in hip-hop, period. What this actually is. This is about the emotional economy of being a superstar black woman whose in-laws treated her like she wasn't worthy for 7 years. That's the angle nobody has the guts to name. Here's what I mean. When you're Cardi's level of famous, money isn't a rare resource anymore. Emotional safety is. Cardi herself has said in interviews she valued feeling emotionally safe with Stefon more than anything Offset ever gave her. So when you take a woman who spent her peak years being dismissed by her husband's family, and you introduce her to a mama who posts phenomenal woman tweets and hugs her like a daughter, that's not a relationship. That's a targeted emotional operation. And that's a forbidden take. Stefon Diggs isn't dating Cardi B. Stefon Diggs is running a psychological operation on Cardi B, and the weapon is his own family. That's a chess move Offset never saw coming, because Offset couldn't even get his own mama to treat Cardi with basic respect. Offset was playing checkers with a toddler's rule set. Stefon showed up playing chess with a PhD. Now think about what this says about the modern rap ecosystem. 15 years ago, a football player wouldn't have been smart enough or connected enough to run this kind of narrative play on a rap superstar. But we're in a new era. The athlete-to-lifestyle pipeline is wide open. Stefon saw that his football career has a clock on it. Released by the Patriots in March, 32 years old, contract situation shaky. Bro is literally running out of NFL runway. So he pivoted into fashion, furniture, and a celebrity romance that functions as both a marketing engine and a retirement plan. That's not love, y'all. That's a business model. And Stefon represents a new generation of athletes who understand that the biggest play isn't the end zone, it's the engagement metric. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. The industry needs this story to work. Design Miami, Art Basel, the fashion press, they all need Stefon to feel authentic so the Cyvis Paysom launch hits. So don't expect Complex or GQ to break this story down honestly. They can't. Their advertisers won't let them. That's why you are getting this breakdown from ME, not from a $2 million a year fashion editor. Stefon is a puppet in a bigger industry play, and the label money behind this kind of brand positioning is pulling strings you can't see from the outside. Meanwhile, Offset, bro is a cautionary tale. This is the same playbook that ate up every rapper who got outmaneuvered by the post-Instagram era. Think about every beef and every breakup in the last 5 years where the rapper got exposed and couldn't recover. Drake getting Kendrick, Kanye unraveling in real time, Diddy's empire imploding. There's a pattern. Men who couldn't keep up with narrative warfare in the social media age. Offset's on that exact losing track. Spending $12 million on bags and still couldn't buy his mother's respect for his wife? That's the OLD hip-hop model of love, where flexing substitutes for emotional investment. and the culture has moved past it. Offset is repeating the same mistakes that ended J.A. Rule's relevance, that sidelined every rapper who thought money was more important than emotional intelligence. He's on the losing side of history. Brew. Here's the deepest truth, though, and this is a part nobody wants to say out loud. Never judge somebody by how they treat you when they need something from you. Right now, Stefon needs Cardi's spotlight to make Cyvis pay some land, to get his fashion bookings, to extend his cultural relevance past his NFL career. Of course his family is sweet. Of course his mama is posting love letters. But the real character check is, how would Mama Diggs be treating Cardi if Stefon wasn't trying to launch a furniture brand? If Cardi was just a normal girlfriend with no Grammy-winning spotlight to lend? That's the question nobody will answer. And if Stefon had any real character, he'd have been in that front row back in February when Cardi needed it most. He wasn't. And that's the truth they won't tell you. Stefon isn't the savior. Stefon is the smarter predator. And Offset is in hell while Stefon is laughing all the way to Design Miami. So what happens next? Here's what's most likely to happen. Mark my words. Cyvis Paysem is gonna drop harder in 2026, and Cardi is gonna be front and center at the launch event, probably wearing custom pieces, probably seated beside Mama Diggs for the cameras. And when that launch happens, the design press is gonna frame her presence as authentic love. But we're gonna know the truth. When that happens, Offset is gonna be watching from wherever he's hiding, probably dodging another tax filing, looking desperate, trying to counter-move with something flashy. And nobody's gonna care. Offset's gonna scream into the void, and the silence is gonna hurt him more than any diss track Cardi could ever drop. That's the most likely path, and it favors Cardi because she walks away with a new business partner who actually respects her brand value. Now, if the alternative happens, if Cardi wakes up one morning and realizes a pattern we just broke down, it's gonna be a different movie. If Cardi starts noticing every time Stefon's family gets loud, a product launch is around the corner, she's gonna pull back. And if that happens, Stefon is not ready for what Cardi will do. Cardi has a track record of turning personal betrayal into platinum records. We saw what she did after the Offset breakup. The music got sharper, the press runs got smarter, the business moves got colder. If she flips on Stefon, Bro's furniture brand is gonna struggle to survive because his whole authentic creative era narrative is dependent on her cosign. Stefon bet his brand on her staying quiet. That's a desperate gamble from a man running out of NFL years. Either way, Cardi wins, because either she's consciously playing the game alongside him, or she flips and destroys him. There's no scenario where Cardi loses this. Looking at the bigger picture, this whole saga is going to be a case study in the future of athlete-celebrity brand partnerships. 5 years from now, business schools are going to break down Cyvis Paysem's rollout as either a genius emotional capital play or masterclass in how athletes exploit relationship optics for product placement. Either way, Offset's name is going to be in that case study as a cautionary example. 5 years from now, people will look back at this period as a moment Offset's relevance died, not because of a diss track, not because of a bad album, but because he couldn't adapt. He couldn't keep up. While his ex was leveling up with a whole new family, Offset was out here itemizing $12 million in receipts on IG Live. That's a moment the culture writes somebody off. And for Cardi, her legacy is gonna elevate regardless. Whether Stefon is a chapter or a husband, she's gonna keep moving, because she's already proven her value doesn't depend on the man next to her. Watch what happens when the next era of her music drops. The narrative from this whole saga is gonna fuel another record-breaking run. Whatever happens, one thing's clear, Offset already lost. And Stefon better hope Cardi don't start reading her own receipts. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering the real story, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss when we expose what everyone else is too scared to say. Ring that bell for notifications. And if you want more truth bombs like this, click on one of these videos next. Trust me, you'll want to see what we found.